to the channel and to Throwback Thursdays. Throwback Thursdays are going to be the day where I talk about a tool that I've been using for a majority of my career. So this is a proven tool that I'm going to highly recommend that you use in your own practice. Now, before we get into what that tool is, let's state the obvious when it comes to business and business relationships. We are lazy. We use text and email instead of the phone. We use the phone instead of a conversation in person, which is tough to do these days. Someone does something nice for us, so like a favor, a great introduction, they share their information or expertise. And if we remember to acknowledge them, it's a thanks in a text or maybe a quick email. It's fucking lazy. Depending on how old you are, you might be like me and have had parents that made you sit at the dinner table and write thank you cards out to teachers at the end of the year, thanking for birthday presents received from Aunt Mabel, or even a note to the parents of a friend who allowed you to have a sleepover at their house. I feel personally like I spent my friggin' childhood writing notes to people and alimony checks. My dad was married a few times, but that's a different story. The handwritten note is the pocket poof of business. It isn't noticed when it's missed, but when it does show up, it makes a statement. The statement is, I'm not like these other donkeys. I invest my valuable time and resources into my relationships. I take time to show gratitude by taking out a card, an envelope, finding a good pen, writing a thoughtful comment, sealing the card, looking up the person's address, handwriting the address in, and putting a stamp on it. Once that's done, it goes in the letterbox and it's on its way. What does everybody else do in business? They text fucking thanks, because writing the whole word of thanks out is too difficult, but I digress.
I'm angry! I'm so goddamn angry!
I want you to consider stepping up and standing out with handwritten notes. Here's how I would go about it if I were you. Number one, get yourself some nice cards. I use moo.com, and so these are the Go CEO cards. And of course, they match our business card as they're supposed to. And they have a matching envelope. Then, after I have cards, and I'll put a link, by the way, to moo.com in the comments below, I get stamps. Now, you can get stamps at the post office or you can get them at Costco very affordably. Number three, I make it an intentioned effort to collect people's mailing addresses. For a long time, people would just take people's business card and write down their phone number and email and throw the business card away. You want to have a physical mailing address so that you have somewhere to send the card to. Number four is I determine for myself for what reasons and why I send cards. For me, I always send a card to somebody after a first one-on-one meeting. I will send a card to show appreciation for something someone has done for me. I use cards to acknowledge milestones, achievements, or something that somebody has accomplished. And I also use the cards to send condolences to people who have lost something. It could be a family member, it could be a dog, it could be a job. After I have all of my cards and my reasons for sending cards set up, then what I do is I start to schedule time to write my cards, and I try to do it as soon as possible after the event. If somebody loses a parent, I might send a card that day. If I just have a meeting, and at the end of every day, I actually send out cards to everyone that I met with for the first time. But what will happen is you'll have occasions where you're at conferences, and when things get back to the new normal, you'll be back at conferences again. And I could have 50, 60, 80 cards from interesting people that I met, right? Literally tons of people. And I'll have a big stack of business cards. And what I'll do is, let's say that the conference is done at 4 or 5 and the dinner's not till 7. I will go back to my hotel room and I will fill out cards for 2 hours. And normally what I like to put in the card is, it was really nice to meet you. I really enjoyed talking about, and I will have made a note on the back of their business card after we talked for something to reference. And I will then get my business card with the card and the envelope put together, stuffed. And if you're staying at a hotel, they'll often mail on your behalf. But if not, you should have stamps in your briefcase. And I get the cards ready and get sent out. Even if the front desk doesn't have stamps, they will take your mail for outgoing, so you don't even have to find a mailbox. The other thing about handwritten cards is that they always have to be handwritten. I'm not a big fan of having other people write your cards for you, like admins or all of that stuff. I'm also not a big fan of using companies like notecards. Now, they're better than nothing, but what they tend to do is use a handwritten font that kind of fakes a handwritten card. And to me, that just isn't, that's not what the intention is of a handwritten card. It's kind of faking it a little bit. And one of the benefits you're going to find from sending out cards is people are going to keep them and they're going to acknowledge that you did something different. I often will get an email, which is funny to me, from someone acknowledging that they received my handwritten card. And they'll say, wow, thanks for the handwritten card. That's a nice touch. But they don't actually take it upon themselves to start to do that or to reciprocate. So I find that a little funny. Maybe I'm a bit nerdy, but it's just weird. Handwritten cards are a game changer for getting known and standing out from the crowd. Now, some of you may already be using handwritten cards, and for those that are, I applaud you. Let me give you a quick 30-second masterclass on how to take it to the next level, which I learned last summer. When I was in France last summer, I was doing my cold calls every day, even when I was at the beach. You do business development when you're on vacation too, right? And what I would do is I'd say to people, hey, I can only talk for 5 minutes because I've got a drink coming, but I wanted to introduce myself in the company, yada, yada, yada. And they would say, where are you calling from? I'm calling from Nice, France, or I'm calling from Monaco. And they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, I am. And they're like, no, you're not. And so they thought it was a bit of a pitch. But what I did is I started, rather than sending, my note cards, which I always bring with me even when I'm traveling, is I started buying postcards, 10 for €1, buying postage, international postage, and I would send those prospects a French postcard with a French stamp and French postmark. And 2 or 3 weeks later, I would get an email from them saying, oh my God, you actually were in France. I can't believe it. And some of those prospects that I followed up with in person when I returned had my postcard, a beautiful picture of Nice, right, of the Mediterranean, pinned up on their board. And you could see that people had been flipping the corner to ask where that person had got it from. Talk about being memorable. And that, I'm embarrassed to say, I just figured that out last summer, but it works like a hot damn. Okay, friends, that's it. Business development should be built on looking to build long-term and mutually beneficial relationships. I want you to invest your time by doing handwritten notes so that you are different, you show the people you're sending it to that they're worth it, and that you value your relationship. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, giving it a thumbs up, sharing it, especially with supervisors and owners who are trying to teach underlings the right way to do business, which is actually a throwback to how people used to do business, right? A lot of appreciation, a lot of love. As always, gladiators eat first, and they send handwritten notes. I'll see you in the next video.